Good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. Thank God it's Friday. I thought it was Thursday and now I just found out it was Friday. I don't have to thank God for Friday anymore. Every day's a weekend for me. Every day's a good day. I don't have any bad days. There's just today, and it's a good day. Ever think about that? There is really just now. And we just name it today. But before you name it, what is it? I'm digressing here, but when you retire from the calendar. So every day is today, and that's a good thing. You don't have to, Friday, Monday, I got to go to work. Oh no. Wednesday, I'm halfway to the weekend. Friday, it's the last day of the week. Oh, yes. Saturday, I get to do what I want, but oh, crap, now I got to do this. And Sunday is the day of rest, but then the washing machine, but then I got to mow the, on and on and on and on. Every day's a good day. The title of today's talk is the Alchemy of Zen. I speak about this a lot, and I have even used this as a title before. I don't know. I lose track. The Alchemy of Zen. Now, alchemy was the science of the Middle Ages. And Carl Jung wrote a lot about it because the alchemy of the Middle Ages is rich in metaphors. It's not a science as we know it. It's a poetic science. It's a quest for what's called the philosopher's stone. This is fairy tale stuff. The quest for the Holy Grail, the quest for the philosopher's stone. We're still doing that today. The quest for an alternative energy, the quest for fusion energy, the quest for energy that doesn't require any fuel. That's the philosopher. That's in today's terminology, discovering an energy that is free from side effects, free from unintended consequences, is the Holy Grail, you see. Oh, we think we discovered it. Recently they discovered fusion, so these philosopher's stones always inaugurate a new age. Like the discovery of steam in England started the machine age and made England the powerhouse of the world. The discovery of electricity created an electronic age. So every age is basically born out of a philosopher's stone, a way to transmute base metal into gold. So that's the metaphor of alchemy. We want to transmute base metal, which is plentiful, it's like a landfill, into gold or something useful. It's like being able to, if you could transmute, we're doing it all the time, discovering new ways, called recycling. Oh, you discover a way to transmute plastic waste into something useful. So the philosopher's stone metaphorically and basically is the idea that will transmute, or the formula that will transmute base metal that has no use into something useful. So it's magical. It transmutes. Transmute is not change. It's like changing lead into gold. It's ambiguous. Transmutes means the gold, the lead is the gold is the lead. So it's not a cause and effect. It's why the Eucharist in Catholicism is alchemy, in the sense that in the Eucharist, in the Mass in the Catholic Church transmutes bread and wine into the living body of Christ, which is not supposed to be something like bread into Jesus, but metaphorically speaking, the transmutation is transmuting bread and wine into you as Jesus. This is a transmutation or a magical awakening. So the objective world of bread and Jesus and yada, 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 through the Eucharist is transmuted into your rebirth. And so we do these all the time, but we don't really have a formula for it. We don't really have an understanding for it. You see, because go to a movie's alchemy. You go to a movie and you've got your everyday bored life. Well, what am I going to do? Let's go to a movie. Okay, you go to a movie, and if it's a good movie, you get transmuted through the ritual of the movie, through the Eucharist of the movie, into a feeling of liberation. For a moment, you're liberated from the weight of your world, and you come out of the movie feeling lighter and happier and ready to go again. So this whole, even the weekend is alchemy. Getting back to the calendar, the weekend in our stupid world, working world, transmutes the workday into a renewal. So Monday comes, you're ready to go again. You see, you've had a transmutation. You've taken anyway. So the point that the Zen of alchemy is that Zen, Buddhism in general, Zen in particular, and when I say Zen, I mean any non-dual tradition that is authentic. So people think, well, you're just talking about Zen. No, I'm talking about any non-dual tradition or transcendental way, any transcendental way, any way that's alchemy, which could be like Christian mysticism, Sufism, Kashmir Shaivism, maybe psychotherapy, whatever works, is alchemy that transmutes suffering, anxiety, negativity, complaining, despair, doubt into I'm awake, I'm aware, and I'm pumped up and ready to go. It's transmutation, see. We always think externally, objectively, transmuting base metal into gold, lead into gold, the useless into the useful. But the Zen of alchemy is transmutation of you. Now, what is our base metal? Well, Buddha pointed it out when he said base metal is suffering, or life is suffering. Where can you go that suffering is not? What house can you go to that suffering is not, that loss is not? One of his stories is that a woman's baby died and she could not give it up. She couldn't accept it, so she went to the Buddha with the dead baby, says, please bring my baby back to life. And the Buddha says, I'll bring it back to life, but go to a house. And if you can find any house where there has been no death, bring a mustard seed back. And she came back and said, I could find no house where there was no loss or suffering. You see, so the idea with Buddhism is that suffering is our base metal. Life is suffering. Zorba says life is a problem. Roll up your sleeves, dance. Shiva in India dances on death, on ashes. The phoenix bird of Persia rises out of its own ashes. So all of these metaphors are around everywhere. This alchemy of transmuting base metal or suffering or the negative into the positive, transmuting the no into the yes. Transmuting, not changing like two things, because in the Zen of alchemy, from the beginning, not a thing is. There are no things. Whoa. So if you suddenly realize there are no things, that is the alchemy of Zen. That awareness, that seeing, is the transmutation of suffering into awareness. This is very difficult to see and to work with because it's not logical. See, our consciousness is framed by the logic of the modern mind, or scientific method, science, objectivity, empirical reasoning. Everything has a cause. There's a law to nature, and if you can find the law, you can control or fix nature. Everything is rational. We just don't even question this. When your computer breaks down, you know, even if you can't find it, that there is a logical cause to it. It's not a gremlin in there. It's not personal. There's no magic in it. You call the tech support and he'll find the cause. We know the cause is in there, you see. Cause and effect. But in alchemy, there's no cause and effect. In the Zen of alchemy, well, let me show you. Well, of course, this is my go-to Gestalt image. I've used it many times. Got it from Albert Lowe. It's on one of his books, on the Heart Sutra. Can you see? Can you see the hag? Can you see the princess? If the princess is looking toward her left, this is her chin, her eyelash. The hag is looking in the opposite way. This is her right eye and the nose. The nose of the hag, the chin of the princess. Now, what is this picture? Is it a hag or is it a princess? If you say it's a hag, well, you're right, but you're wrong. If you say it's a princess, you're right. If all you can see is the hag, most people, when they look at this first time, they see one or the other. I see the hag. I don't see any princess. So if you were asked, what is this picture about? You'd say it's a hag. But if you only saw the princess and you couldn't see the hag, if you asked, what is this picture about? Well, it's a princess. The hag doesn't exist. And yet when you see both, now you see that, and you notice, very interesting here, that if you focus on the hag, you can't see the princess. But then suddenly the princess will come to the foreground and the hag will be the background. Now I see the princess and I don't see the hag. And now the hag comes. So you get an oscillation here. If you play with this, you get an oscillation of the hag and the princess. You can't stop it. Focus on the princess, focus on... And suddenly the princess becomes background and the hag is foreground. Oh, now the hag is here. Focus on the hag. Oh, focus, hold. But then you can't stop it. The hag goes to the background, the princess. Oscillation. But our logic, the logic of science, is based on the law of identity, which came out of Aristotle and the Greeks. Everything is what it is. Now, with that law, the hag is the hag, and it's not the princess. Or the princess is the princess, and it's not the hag. But in ambiguity, that logic fails. The hag is the princess is the hag. Can't separate them. But they're different. But logic works in fixing the world because it separates the hag from the princess. So using this mind, if I look in the mirror and I see a hag, I get plastic surgery. So in our logic, the logic of the machine, the logic of identity, where everything is what it is, you see, in the logic of ambiguity, which is creativity or alchemy, everything is its own opposite. The hag is the princess is the hag. They're different, but you can't separate them. You cannot separate the hag from the princess. Because whatever you do to the hag, you do to the princess. Whatever you do to the princess, you do to the hag. This is why we get all hung up in relationship. When I'm trying to fix the other person, do something to the other person, I'm trying to do something to the hag. So I will feel the princess. But whatever I do to the other person, I do to me. I can't figure it out. Jesus, Jesus was talking about that in his alchemy message. Jesus was teaching alchemy on one hand, but then we interpret it scientifically and logically on the other, so we can't figure out what he's talking about. What do you mean, love your enemies? If you love the hag, you love the princess. Anyway, so you get the point here. So the Zen of alchemy, or the alchemy that is Zen, is not logical. It's not empirical. It's not reasonable. And it's not even consciousness. Because our consciousness is our common sense logic now that has been conditioned and created by our culture that believes in a rational world out there that exists separate from me. The fundamental belief of the modern mind, the scientific mind, the modern age, that I think ended with the 50s, but we'll get into that. But the logic of it, the assumption of it, the believed in truth of it, the unquestioned truth is that the world exists out there as something substantial, and I am in it temporarily, and then I leave, but the world stays the same, just as I perceive it, you see. So the world of time exists, and I come into it for a while, and then I leave, you see. But the world stays the same. I'm not participating in the creation of the world, but then quantum ended that. Now, quantum was the first time Western science realized that there was something in alchemy. In the alchemy science, you could not separate the scientist from the experiment. It was like poetry. See, poetry, you can't separate the poet from the words. In prose, or the difference between poetry and a computer manual. So in the computer manual, you're separate. You get the manual. I'll put this down. You want to fix your motorcycle, like in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle. You get a manual to fix the motorcycle, but you're separate from the motorcycle. That's why you can operate on it. But in the poetry of the motorcycle, in the alchemy of the motorcycle, when you're riding the motorcycle, you can't be separate from the motorcycle. You are the motorcycle. You are the road. You are the machine. You are the joy and the freedom. But then it breaks down, and now you switch to the other mind, and you get out the manual, and now you are fixing the motorcycle. I'm here, the motorcycle's there. This is the world we believe is the real world, and that the joyous world, the alchemy world, where I am the motorcycle and the motorcycle is me, or you are what you're doing, the princess and the hag are the same. You see, in the science world, the hag is over here, the princess is over here. You want to go and become a princess, and you don't want to be a hag. So you get plastic surgery, you get fixed, you go to therapy, you do Zen and Buddhism and yoga, all these things so you can be the princess and not be a hag. And this is a functional way of looking at the world because it fixes and makes machines. So the modern mind, the modern Western mind, has been a machine-making mind. But in the process of making the machines and fixing the world and making air conditioner and all these good things, there's been a payoff. We have lost our identity with the world, and we're kind of like the mechanic forever, you see. Now, if the mechanic hurts, I can't fix myself because in order to fix myself, I have to be outside of myself. And it's being outside of myself that's what hurts. So I have to discover the alchemy that transmutes this pair of opposites, the hag and the princess, into one self, a true self. And when the hag is the princess and the princess is the hag, where is the hurt? Where is the suffering? You see, it's an entirely different mind. And that's why I use Zen, because Zen goes specifically and works intentionally with a powerful laser on this ambiguity of consciousness, where everything is its own opposite. Everything is different. Everything is what it is. Yes. Everything, the chair is a chair. The lamp is the lamp. The princess is the princess. The hag is the hag. All of that is valid. But it misses the other side. It misses the unity side. This is only the consciousness or mind of separation. In order to fix something, you have to be separate from it. In order to fix the machine, you have to be outside of the machine. The surgeon operates on the body, but he's outside of it. But if the surgeon hurts, who's going to operate on him? Well, you go to a psychologist, a therapist, who is outside of the surgeon, you see. So no matter where we go in that frame of mind, we're always outside of ourselves. The counter cannot be counted. Only things can be counted. But when we get to Zen, to the alchemy of Zen, we'll come from the beginning, not a thing is. Well, if there are no things, then I am everything, and everything is me. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The hag is the princess is the hag. This is a viewpoint of unity. But then if you still want to go get some plastic surgery, go get it. But you will not be a better person when you get it, you see, because you're already the princess. You see, we're already whole. But there's two. The difference is that only in the logical mind, the scientific mind, we separate the two and try to find the one in the separate opposite. So the chair is one, and take Alice in Wonderland. It's a dream. So you got the croquet becomes a flamingo, and the flamingo becomes a croquet, and Alice is trying to hit the ball with the flamingo. This is transcendent of the law of identity. The law of identity, or the waking world that we think is real, says the flamingo is a flamingo and the croquet mallet is a croquet mallet, and you can never put them together. But in the dream, but in alchemy, in Zen, they're put together. But that's not the objective world that's put together. It's you that's put together with the world, you see. You are now included as a co-creator of the world you live in. Instead of God being there and me being here, now you don't say, I am God, because that's still making yourself into a thing. There is no thing. There is no thing. From the beginning, all beings are Buddha. True self is no self. From the beginning, not a thing is. All these little crazy Zen things are alchemy. They're pointing to a new way of being in the world, a way of being in the world that's joyous and free of suffering. So this way of being in the world is not a new world, it's our original way. In other words, this is our, in Zen says, we're already in samadhi, we're already always awake. But now we've added this scientific method on top of that so we can fix the world and make better air conditioners, you see. But now we believe that's the only world. That's the true way of seeing the world. And the unity behind, the samadhi, the awakening, the Buddha behind, has been repressed and not disappeared, but projected into the future. So now we have to attain or acquire or become our true self, which is unity with the world, in time. And we get a manual to get to it. The Buddha Sutras will get you there. You do the Eightfold Path, and you'll get to Buddha. You'll get to the oneness. You'll get to unity in the future. But in the meantime, you're going to hurt. So Zen says, forget the manual. You're already whole. You're already Buddha. But at the same time, you can fix the machine. There's two minds here. One sees unity, one is unity, one sees separation. But our culture has only adopted one mind because it's so successful and created so many great machines. But now it's kind of like coming to the end of that glory days, because now what we are creating is destroying us. So we need an awakening here. The Zen of alchemy. Thanks for dropping in.